What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Devin Haney versus George Kambosos 2, and this is going to be a 12-rounder for the undisputed WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF Lightweight World Championship, and this fight is going to be Saturday, October 15th, from the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne, Australia, and this fight is going to be broadcasted on ESPN+, ESPN, and on the ESPN app in the United States. And to get into both fighters' resumes, Devin Haney, fighting out of the United States, holds a record of 28 wins with no defeats and 15 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked number 2 by BoxRec in the lightweight division. He's also the current undisputed WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF lightweight world champion. And to list some of his best victories, he's defeated Zaur Abdullayev by knockout. He's defeated former champion George Kambosos by unanimous decision. He also defeated former world champion Jorge Linares by unanimous decision. Defeated another former world champion in Joseph Diaz by unanimous decision, aka Jojo Diaz. And he also defeated George Kambosos in their first fight by a wide and pretty clear unanimous decision. And that's where obviously he won the 3 of the belts that made him undisputed. Before that fight with Kambosos, he held the WBC title, and Kambosos held the other 3 belts. But to get into his opponent's resume, George Kambosos, fighting out of Australia, holds a record of 20 wins with 1 defeat and 10 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked number 3 by BoxRec in the lightweight division, and he's also the former WBA, WBO, and IBF lightweight world champion. And to list his one and only defeat, obviously, as I mentioned before, it was where he did lose to Devin Haney in their first fight by a clear unanimous decision. But to list some of his best victories, he's defeated Mickey Bay by split decision. He's defeated former champion Lee Selby by split decision, and defeated former champion Teofimo Lopez by split decision. But at the time when he fought Teofimo Lopez, Lopez was the champ, and it was a massive, massive upset. It was my upset of the year, I believe so, for 2021. And he showed a lot of heart in that fight. Got it done. He dropped Lopez. He came back from his own knockdown late as well, and it was a phenomenal fight that, like I said before, he showed a lot of grit in. But in my opinion, this fight is just going to be a one-sided, really beat down in favor of Devin Haney. Like, I don't think that Kambosos is going to be, getting destroyed each round, as in, he's going to be bloodied up, battered, might get stopped. I say that's going to be a beatdown, as in that Haney's just going to completely outclass Kambosos. I think he's just going to dominate him through and throughout the fight. I mean, really, the thing is, compared to the other fights I predicted this week, I didn't really get to see, or I didn't really get to play, the weigh-in as a factor into my prediction, if a fighter looks drained or not, or something like that. But since I predicted this fight really down, right on the wire of when this fight's going to happen, I mean, the weigh-in, I saw Devin Haney, he looked very, very sort of drained, I guess you could say. I mean, his cheekbones were, sucked in. It almost reminded me of when Conor McGregor was fighting at 145 in the UFC. Just very drained. But, even though Haney looks like he did have to cut a lot of weight for this fight, I still think that he's going to get the job done and pretty much dominate George Kambosos. George Kambosos, in the first fight, he really did show that he's, maybe that the fight with Teofimo Lopez could have just been, just that one moment that he shined at this stage, because I just really think that Devin Haney, being that he was able to just beat Kambosos that easily, I would think that Teofimo Lopez would have had a very tough fight with Devin Haney. Would have been very competitive, but then when Haney fought Kambosos absolutely got dominated. So I think that in this fight we're going to see another showing of Haney's boxing skill. If Haney's able to get this win, it'll obviously rise him up even more in the pound-for-pound list, and obviously Kambosos will be dropped a bit as well. I believe both these guys are in my top 30 pound-for-pound. I should be doing some type of live stream or video or long video on my top 30 pound-for-pound in maybe the next coming month. Just stay posted on that if I do post something like that on my channel. But, both of these guys are definitely well in there on my list. Whoever wins, obviously, will either get boosted or dropped. But, I obviously just think that Devin Haney, being that he's just a superior boxer in there, I just think he's going to get the job done. dominantly again. I think he's just going to outbox George Kambosos. And the thing is, I mean, what's odd about this fight is that it's in Australia again. I mean, why is it in Australia? Haney won the first fight dominantly. He should have the fight in his home turf, and where he wants it to happen. And the thing is, I wish this fight was in the morning, to be 100% honest, because I do have to wake up early. Obviously, today, when this video is posted on October 15th, I do have to wake up early, so it would have been just perfect. I would have been able to just get a review out and whatnot. But later on at night, I'm actually going to the Hellenius and Wilder fight, so I don't think I'll be able to do a fight review on time for this fight. But nonetheless, I'll try and get one out, maybe a few hours after the fact or the morning of. So just stay posted on that as well. But more on this fight, like I've been saying, Devin Haney, I just think is much, much better than George Kambosos with his technicality, his IQ in the ring. George Kambosos, I really just don't know what he's going to do to maybe make the fight much closer or maybe to win the fight. Because in the first fight, he tried early trying to copy Haney's game plan in the first half, like trying to jab him, trying to land shot for shot, punch for punch with him boxing. But it just wasn't working well. He wasn't able to keep up with that pace with Haney. But Haney was just calm the whole fight, collected, countering Kambosos, landing the better shots. It wasn't the most exciting fight. I mean, it was a very boring fight, if I'm going to be 100% honest. But later on, I mean, Kambosos got a bit reckless. He was just trying to come forward a bit more, trying to rough up Haney. And I think that's what he needs to do a bit more in this fight. Because even though necessarily he wasn't winning many rounds, like actually I think that he had more success on the scorecards early than late in the fight. But I mean, it just looked like he was keeping Haney a bit uneasy later on in the second fight compared to the earlier half. And it's not like Haney was like super uncomfortable. It was just he was a bit more uncomfortable than he was early on in the fight when Kambosos was trying to really land with Haney and really trying to keep up with the pace with Haney as opposed to just fighting at his own pace. So in this fight, I mean, I think round by round, early on in the fight, I think that Devin Haney will pretty much shut out George Kambosos, like, after the first 4 rounds. I think it will easily pretty much be, like, 40-36, maybe 39-37, just maybe, if one round is, like, a somewhat competitive, like, first round, like a feel-out round or something like that, because there's usually some of those in a lot of big fights, so it could be 39-37 for Haney. And then I believe that, I mean, even when the fight picks up, I think, like, in rounds 5 and 6, 7 maybe, will also be pretty clear to Haney. I mean, I just think that Kambosos, I just really don't know what style would work for him in this fight. I mean, really, his style, if he tries to box with Haney, if he tries to come forward and pressure him, I mean, I just don't see him winning many rounds at all. And it doesn't even benefit him that he has no power. So that's definitely not going to help. So, I mean, it's not like Jorge Linares, who was able to land at least one big shot on Haney and just shake up the whole trajectory of the later half of the fight and really shake up Haney and win the later rounds, and that made the fight close. But, I mean, Kambosos doesn't really have much power. I mean, he did drop Teofimo, but that was all timing and speed. And obviously the saying is that timing beats power. And, but I just think in this fight, I don't think that's the case. I mean, obviously it's boxing, anything can happen, but I just think that it's much more likely for Devin Haney to just outbox George Kambosos. I think Kambosos, like I said, is going to be much more aggressive in this fight, because I think that's just going to be what he needs to do to possibly try and win some rounds. So I think he's going to be just getting caught with the jab on the outside. Kambosos might be leaping in a bit too much and caught with some counters. And I think, yeah, in those middle rounds, I think Haney will win them clearly. And I think that after, like, 7 rounds, it could be 69-64 most likely for Devin Haney. But then from rounds 8 through 12, I think they'll be the most competitive rounds of the fight. Just like in the first fight, it seemed like Haney was a bit more uneasy in those later rounds. Like, Kambosos was much more aggressive, much more just, like, throwing it out there, trying to get the job done, trying to do a Hail Mary, or land a Hail Mary shot. But I just think in this fight, George Kambosos is going to be much more well-suited for those later rounds. I think he'll make them a bit more competitive. I don't think he's going to win all of them. I think they could, I mean, possibly just go all in favor of Devin Haney, but I think they'll be the most competitive rounds of the fight. I'm not saying that Kambosos will win all of them. I'm saying that he might win one of them, might win 2 of them, and make the rest competitive. So, I mean, really, I just think that Devin Haney will still stay in that boxing game, still be fighting smart from rounds 8 to round 12. But I think that George Kambosos will make those rounds a bit more competitive. He might edge like two of them, might edge one of them. But nonetheless, I think all of those rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, those last 5 rounds, will be competitive, or will be more competitive than the other rounds of the fight. But I think that Kambosos might only edge like one or two of them, as opposed to like getting all 5 or something like that. So yeah, I think that ultimately all equates to George Kambosos Jr. Going the distance with Devin Haney for a second time, and it does equate to him getting like 3 rounds, 2 rounds, possibly even 1 round. So that's what I think the judges are going to score this fight. I think they're only going to give George Kambosos maybe 1 round at 119, 109, maybe 2 rounds at 118 to 110, and maybe 3 rounds as well at 117 to 111. So, if you're predicting this fight, comment down below who you think is going to win. I think it's pretty clear to say that Devin Haney is going to get the job done once again, and maybe move on to better things at 135, or who knows, maybe even moving up in the near future. He is the undisputed champion. He could really do what he wants, and now that we're seeing with all these sanctioning bodies stripping fighters of titles and having them make mandatory defenses against relatively unknowns, I mean, who knows? Most likely in the next few fights, maybe the next year, we could possibly see Devin Haney moving up to 140. Who knows? This is boxing. Anything could happen. So overall, I believe that Devin Haney will defeat George Kambosos in their rematch, and I think he'll basically have a very similar performance to the first fight, getting a pretty wide and clear unanimous decision victory. And I think that the judges will score this bout 119, 109, 118 to 110, and 117 to 111, all in his favor. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.